I wonder today how many people are healed but never took the cast off.
Ooh.
I wonder how many leaders, they don't recognize that their heart is actually made whole again.
Yeah.
But they leave a cast on that prevents them from ever seeing the new blessing, the new miracle that is a person. God's greatest blessings in my life, God's greatest delivery mechanism of miracles in my life has always been through people. Hey, it's Rich, and you're listening to the Mature Me podcast, weekly content devoted to all things life, leadership, culture, and faith. Thank you for taking some time to tune in. Make sure you subscribe and follow us on all our social channels so you don't miss a thing. Let's listen to today's episode. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of a little podcast that we've chosen to call Mature Me. That's it right there. We are trying to mature. We're trying to grow. We're trying to become something more than what we are. And I've been saying it this way. We don't just want to grow old. We want to grow up. There is a big, big difference. I know a lot of old people that still haven't grown up, and I'm on the journey. Not 40 yet, but on the way. I want to continue to grow up. And so we're glad that you're tuning in today. Wherever you're at in the world, do us a favor, like, subscribe, share, leave us a comment. Julia, we've been getting a lot of comments on the YouTube, and I think sooner than later we need to kind of sit down and answer some of these questions because I've seen a lot of great comments. So do us a favor, subscribe to it. It helps us so much. Also, one of the things that we want to make sure that we're sharing with you is that every Tuesday morning, like real early, like 6 a.m. early, we put out a Leadership with Rich email. And in that email, it's free of charge, of course, but we want to get some handles for you. Maybe you're leading an organization, maybe you're working a job, maybe you're just at home with some kids. But every one of us have a place of influence with someone, and we want to help you get better. I think as leaders get better, everyone around you gets better. And so sign up for that email. You can go to richwilkersonjr.com, or you can go to my Instagram page, hit the link, and subscribe, and we'll make sure that you get that. But with no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this is probably my biggest pod yet. I've really been seeking the Lord, and I've really been going, God, who is it we should get to come on? Who do we need to talk to? Who can bring your word to people in a time of need? And it's none other than my good friend. He pastors Zoe LA. He's a husband. He's a father. You know him from Leadership Leaning on YouTube. This is Pastor Chad Veach, folks.
And so Philippians 4. And so open your Bibles. I'd like to talk.
Bro, I'm just so happy that you're here with me right now.
I'm so happy to be here.
We've already had a wonderful day, but you're in Miami. You're in the Design District Studios. What do you feel about the studio?
This is unbelievable. By the way, I'm not just here today. We've been together since Monday. We've had an ongoing conversation going since Monday,
which I love.
We've actually had an ongoing conversation for 13 years. Yeah, over a decade. But yeah, we've been together since Monday.
I actually like it because people are actually tuning in right now, but we've already talked about a lot. And we're going to talk about more. But they're going to get right now maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours if you're in the mood for it. I'm
in for 2 hours.
Just wherever Chad Veach is at. But thank you for coming on today. Thank you for being in Miami. I love you. I admire you. You inspire me. And I'm grateful that we're together right now.
I love you so much. I admire you. This is unbelievable. What a setup. And something you've been talking about for so long, you're doing.
Isn't it funny how we can talk and talk and talk? We can think and think and think. But it's always an action that actually makes something come to life.
But I also think timing too. This is something that was in your heart for a long time, something that you pondered and considered and should I, and the fact that you're just doing it now, it was the right time.
I believe so. I hope so.
It feels like that.
Is there anything right now in your life that you've been talking about for a long time that you probably should have just already done? Let's just go there.
I feel like
any more kids?
Counseling. Yeah.
You have never done counseling?
No, I in spurts, off and on.
What you do like
like marathons? No.
What do you mean you do counseling in spurts like drugs?
No, like I feel like you exhaust a counselor. You kind of go like, I've gotten what I need from them. I'm gonna go to somebody else.
You sound like a bad churchgoer. Imagine if someone came to Zoe, is like, yo, bro, I'm not gonna lie. You know this person. I got what I needed this summer. I'm now headed over to the other church.
I'm going over there.
So that's how you treat counselors a little bit.
Yeah, I feel
What do you
like,
mean? You got exhausted with your counselor. Let's talk about that for a second.
Well, I think that you gotta find somebody that like pulls the best, worst out of you. And I think that sometimes you can talk to people that like maybe are too kind to you. Maybe you need to be challenged in a different way. So I always think that it's like you just gotta find the right person that's gonna bring out a vulnerable state in you. Maybe someone needs someone harsh or someone that's like.
But
really
when you
kind.
put it through that lens, does that maybe give you more grace for people that leave your church quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, everybody's just looking for what works for them.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
And for some people, like my sister-in-law Pilar, who went to a couple of churches before she went to VU. I'm kidding. Pilar's in the studio.
How many?
She never. No, she didn't. She went to one. But some people, it's like, dog, you go to a different church every day of the week. I go there for the choir. I go there for the singles. I go there for the kids. I go there for the. They're always trading up based upon consumerism, but that's not what you're actually saying. I think the difference between going for what's just good for me, it's actually where am I making a connection?
Connection and a challenge. I think that's what you're
There you
after to grow. I think you can't grow if you're not challenged.
I think I agree with you because the first lady I ever talked to, my wife actually talks to her now. Maybe she's watching, but she's actually really smart and really wise. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but like when I would talk to her, sometimes I felt like there was a level, and I don't know if this is even true about her. It's what I sensed about her, which that she was like very conservative. And by the way, I hope people say I'm very conservative, which is so funny. It's like, that's a good thing, Rich.
Right.
But I almost felt like, hey, I'm trying to go to a place that I can just be completely unfiltered, and I find myself playing the game which we all play, which is a projection versus I think you're going to counseling to be like the actual you. Like, this is where I'm at right now today.
Yes.
And maybe I was a little bit afraid to go all the way there with her.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So I'm with another guy right now who's a little bit more like, oh, I just feel like I can be more unfiltered.
Yeah, and I think connection is the goal, right? You want to connect with somebody, and you want somebody to kind of not just identify or unpack where you're at, but you want to feel like you can trust them, that they're going to give you sound advice that like you need to hear in that season.
You know, I have a whole funny like thought on this right now, which is like we live in this world today, which if you're watching, I believe in counseling. I believe in therapy.
Yes.
I think so many people, you need to go see a therapist. Like you need.
What
to
do
go
they
talk
say?
to someone.
Jesus plus therapy equals everything.
Stop.
You seen these shirts?
No.
Jesus plus therapy equals
Which I disagree
everything.
with. That's
It's
absolutely
so funny.
not
It's
true.
so funny.
But I do believe in therapy. I think the point is when you go backwards, you don't want to go backwards alone.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean by that? Like,
Well, I think I was telling you recently about, a friend of ours, a pastor that just got his doctorate in mega church pastors with trauma. And he's convinced of the three solutions. I don't want to give away his content because he's coming out with a book. But the third solution, I will say, and that is you have to see a trauma specialist, a trauma counselor. So just because you're seeing a counselor,
because mega church pastors are traumatized in his opinion?
that's what he believes because of the weight or the gravity of
People
their
pleasing.
Yeah, just the
crowds.
demand, all of it, the schedule, the criticism, the abandonment, rejection, fill in the blank.
Sure.
A mega church is anything over 2,000 in America traditionally, a scale of influence. He says there's so much trauma in that specific role, you need to see a trauma therapist. So not just a therapist, someone that
really
specializes. I think that's really important.
Well, I've never seen a trauma therapist.
Yeah, when he told me, I go, "Can you give me the number for
You got
somebody?"
somebody? Because maybe I am traumatized. I talk to someone almost weekly, which I think has been really beneficial to me. However, here's my big conjunction now as I pivot over there. We do live in a funny world right now, and maybe this has happened to you, where like, hey, my therapist said, which by the way, you don't know who the therapists are.
Yeah.
You've got a 10-year friendship with this person. You've been doing life with them, and all of a sudden now this third party that you don't know, don't get to know, anonymous, and somehow they become at times stronger than the word of God.
Bro,
So in the voice of God, it's like, who is the...
Don't get me started
And
on this.
if you say the word therapist before, it's like a blanket statement that you can't argue back.
Don't get me
Hey,
started
my
on this.
therapist wanted me to tell you.
To tell you.
Where is this person?
Yeah, who are
Like-
they? Are they a Christian?
Yeah. Oh, ooh.
Bro, don't get me started on this. This is so crazy to me. It used to be that the therapist was called the mentor. My mentor.
Or a good friend.
My good friend.
Or a good, or like a good friend.
And now it's like, it is the ultimate, it's like, it's the new God card.
it's weird.
It's the new God card.
It's like, oh, and if someone
Oh,
says,
God, therapist.
you know when someone says to you, which I think it's dangerous, like I think the Lord does speak, if you're wondering on the podcast, where do I land? I believe that God is still working. He's the same God yesterday, today, and forever. I think he's still working miracles. I think the gifts of the Spirit are active and operating. But I also think that some dudes say too much.
Bro.
The Lord wanted me to tell you, or the Lord spoke to me. It's like, okay. But point is when someone tells me, God told me, it's hard for me to argue with God.
Yeah.
So, hey, Pastor Rich, I want to let you know, God told me to leave VU, or God told me this. It's like, okay, well, you just gave me the God card.
Yeah.
And I can't really rebuttal it unless it goes against the Bible. But it's the same thing with the therapist right now. It's like, I never met your therapist, and I disagree.
It violates Scripture, because what does Proverbs say? There's wisdom in the multitude of counselors. So I don't have one voice. I have a multitude of voices. You're a voice in my life. My parents are a voice in my life. My pastors, dear friends. So I think anytime
Your wife.
The loud, it's Holy Spirit, then my spouse, then my wife. So I think that you gotta, if you get stuck on one voice, you go weird.
Very good.
You go weird.
Do you feel like at times with what I'm saying that people sort of play it that way?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's like I'm a firm believer. This is a great thought. I don't know who said this. I would love to give credit. I think two things are true at the same time. People want to hear what they don't want to hear. So I don't want to hear the truth, but I do crave it, inside. Criticism or feedback, constructive criticism, feedback. I want to grow, but my flesh side, I want to hear what I want to hear. I want to be validated. I want to be selective hearing. I want to be validated and affirmed. So if you're finding somebody that's you're right. You shouldn't be treated that way. Wow, they did that to you? They said that? And so anybody that is only going to tell you that side, that's just one side of the coin. I think a good friend or a good voice in your life, hey, let's just play the devil's advocate for a second. Maybe they didn't mean that. Maybe that isn't true. Maybe you caught them on a bad day. I just think you got to have perspective around you.
We were talking at lunch today, and I think one of the things I'm grateful for your friendship about, and I think that when it comes to being a good friend, if you're going, hey, how can I be a better friend versus do I have good friends, is that being a good friend and also do you have good friends comes down to this idea that when you're in a pit, I want someone to get in the pit with me, but I want someone to show me a way out of the pit. And getting a way out of the pit's not sitting down there going, hey, the guys who throw you in the pit, it's their fault. It's no, how do we climb out?
Right.
And so I always want to get a person in my life that when I'm offended or hurt with someone, they're not just jumping on that bandwagon, but they're showing me the other side. I think my wife is the best in the world at giving me other people's perspective, because if you're not careful, and this is what makes a good marriage and bad marriage. A lot of bad marriages is someone's down, they get down. Someone's up, you know what I mean? And they just elevate them to a place that's too high that they end up come crashing down anyways. You want a spouse or a person in your life that's helping you be balanced, so that when you're up going, yeah, you're amazing, let's also remember who got you up there, the Lord. When you're down, hey, you're not going to stay down. God's got something better for you. You want to get someone who pulls you up. And so it is with a friend when it comes to counsel. I'm always kind of leery of the person who's counseling is yeah, they're the worst. They're the awful. I need some friends that are bro, get over your ego.
Yeah.
And not enabling me, but empowering me. There's the language I want to land. Don't enable me in my bitterness. Don't enable me in my offense. Don't enable me in my smallness. Empower me to forgive. Empower me to love. Empower me to be bigger than what I am right now.
Yeah, and I just like this. I think when we were, recently with Chris Hodges, he was using good language these guys make me strong in areas that I'm weak.
Very good.
And I think that there's a lot of
make
areas,
me rich where I'm poor.
That's what he said.
I love that.
I just think that's a great thought. And that to me speaks to the strength of a friendship. I know I'm really poor here. You're really rich there. How do you help
brother,
me?
This to me is such a good conversation, because one of the things I want to talk to you about today is just you have the Leadership Lean In podcast. I think that God's given you all sorts of, I think people look at your life and there's a lot of things that you're known for, but one of the things that God's given you is unique influence. And I was talking to a guy one time, I won't say his name. He's one of the most profound preachers on the planet today. He's very, very successful. And we were talking about a quote unquote celebrity. And his response to me was, I would have nothing. I don't know how I could coach that person. I don't know how I could lead that person. That person's so gifted. And right away when I heard it, I understood what he meant. And it wasn't coming from a place, it was coming from a place of humility. Like, this person's like,
Yeah.
what could I say to this person that would understand?
Yeah.
But that language right there, all influence and all leadership is to me is trying to make people rich where they're poor.
There you go.
And everybody's poor somewhere.
That's it.
Some people are poor with their spouse. Some
Yeah.
people are poor with their health.
That's right.
Poor with their habits. Poor with their perspective. Poor with their
Friendships.
kids. Poor with their friendships. And so God's word comes in.
Yeah.
And rich and poor might be a weird connotation for someone who's listening right now.
Yeah.
But the idea is like making you more than what you are, strengthening
That's
that which
right.
is weak. And I think that if you want to influence someone, it's like just add value to where they don't
That's what I
have
was gonna say.
value. Add value where they feel like something's worthless or poor. And it's amazing where God
everything.
will take you.
And I think that is, again, going back to Chris Hodges. I'm quoting him twice now. If we can keep it, keep it tracker.
By the way,
I'm too in.
Chad's whole thing, Chad gets like really like obsessed with the person for about 14 days. And he'll meet somebody, he'll meet some pastor, he'll meet some guy, he'll meet some shop owner, some business guy. And brother, when he speaks, even at a dinner table, bro, you like, let me tell you what this guy, let me tell you what Bob said. I'm like, bro, if I get one more Bob quote this week, I'm going to lose my mind.
It's usually who I was with last.
Well, I was watching you do a Carrie Nieuwhof interview. Shout out to Carrie Nieuwhof.
Oh,
And you're so good, but one of the things that you do, I think it's good, but I also think it's like, let's just talk to you about it. Like every time a question's asked to you, before you always start with a kind of a quote or a piece of wisdom or a principle from somebody else.
somebody else said.
What do you think that is? I mean, I think it's cool. It's also like, how do you know all this stuff?
Well, I think that I try to live my life as a learner. I try and live my life as somebody that's collecting great information.
Yeah.
I think that's part of leadership. If you want to say a bunch of good stuff, you got to consume a bunch of good stuff. That's a Jesus quote, right? An evil man puts evil things in. A wise man puts wise things in. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks.
There
So
you
if
go.
I'm always putting stuff in, I always got something to say.
Very good.
So this last week, Chris Hodges was saying stuff. And
What'd he say?
he was saying, I can't remember what we were
It's
talking
okay.
about now.
It's
What-
okay.
What were we
Keep going.
talking?
I don't know. You were saying something about good quotes
Chris Hodges told me something.
about rich and poor and about making people rich in places that you're poor.
Yeah,
You better go. He said one more thing. I don't know, but
I can't
I love
remember.
that you do that.
I
Are you aware that you do that though?
I'm always trying to collect something. I'm always trying to, because I like not trying to be the authority. I think we've always kind of been against that guy that's like, I've always said, I think that, that just is, to me, it comes off pretentious.
Sure.
That you're the authority. I like collecting and going like, I really like what this guy said. I think they've got, Jordan Peterson has good wisdom. Joe Rogan was recently saying, I saw Theo Vaughn say that. I don't know if I agree with everything about this guy, but man, he said this. I like collecting things.
You're really good at that.
Scripture,
Do you think that's the gift of self-awareness? Do you think you're pretty self-aware? As I say that, you have to answer that with a buffer of like, I hope so, but like,
Oh my
is that
gosh.
something you're trying to fight for, self-awareness?
I think I would love to be self-aware. I think even in times when I violate what we would call self-awareness, it kind of makes me panicky.
What do you think self-awareness is?
Self-awareness is, to me, just trying to understand the way I'm making someone feel, the way I'm coming across, whether I'm being demanding or short, or I'm sucking all the air out of the room, or I'm being a good leader, or I see a moment of opportunity where something needs to be said or something needs to be covered. I think it's just looking at the surroundings and going, what is needed in this moment, and how do I, like you said, add value?
Well, that's really good. One of my basic definitions, this is the Mature Me podcast, and not that I know what maturity is, but I'm on a journey of like going, how would I define that? Even I did this whole collection on Mature Me, and I'm like, did I ever define like a basic handle of what maturity is? And maybe I've said it on here before, but if I haven't, I'll say it for many more years to come, which I think maturity is being helpful.
Wow. That's great.
Do you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to
That's
trying to
so
like reduce
bite-sized. I love that.
But like even just how you just explain, I hear all that's like, I want to be helpful to the moment. It's
Yeah.
not about me. It's about being helpful to those around me in the moment around me.
Right. And I think, Dawn Cherie said this at VuCon last year. She was bragging about her parents. What is maturity to me? It's not walking in the room going, here I am. To me, maturity and strength, security is going, there you are. That's when you can add value and be an influence. Oh, sorry. Going back, you were talking about the celebrity that the pastor that said the celebrity. And I think what's really important, Chris Hodges, going back to his quote, he said his prayer for every leader is the word security. I think the connotation of that, let's play law of opposite. There's so many people that are plagued with insecurity that would say, to me, insecurity says, what could I add? Security goes, I have a ton to add. I have the power to make someone feel welcomed, important, believed in, championed. And what I do recognize is that everyone is, like you said, poor somewhere. So I have the weaponry of what God gave me in my mouth, which is to speak life or death. Every human has the same needs. I'm convinced. There are no superheroes. Every human, you've encountered and interacted with all types of people. We all need love, acceptance, forgiveness, grace, mercy, approval. We crave it. We crave this stuff. And so I don't think that because someone has sold a lot of movies or music or
that they don't
the
need
most
anymore.
Successful model or fill in the blank for the industry, CEO, it doesn't matter. Every human is wired with human condition that needs those things. So when we recognize people from that standpoint, we go, man, I got a lot to offer. I don't have to be the smartest. I don't have to be the best. But I just have to be confident enough. That's where I think the inferiority complex or the imposter syndrome resonate with people, is because there's so many people that struggle with this, and they project, image manage, project, and they like want to present themselves so much bigger than they are. Then you get around somebody like, oh my gosh, you got a really small soul. I only know that because you gossiped, you struggle with jealousy, you're not very happy with who you are, you're not comfortable in your own skin. When I get around someone like yourself that's very comfortable with who you are, that's not always struggling with self-deprecation humor, but you can be very vulnerable and honest with your weaknesses. That to me speaks of strength, and you add value wherever you go. That's leadership to me.
Well, you're being very kind as you say those words. I think that since I've known you, you are secure because I actually know you. You come off secure. When are you insecure? And is that daily, weekly, monthly? Is that moments? Is that there's always a bit of insecurity? Do you have any funny story? You did something the other day where like, that was so dumb, and that was out of my insecurity or something? Like, does it make any sense? Like,
yeah, I feel
that wasn't helpful. That was about me.
Yeah, I think that's, what are we always checking? Our ego. What's always kind of that thing you're wrestling? Your motives. So I think that's, I think it's okay to have insecurity, a touch of it. You just can't be plagued with it. So what do we all want to be proud of our work. The thing about work is that it's not even the result that defines you. It's like you want to just work until you're proud of something. Really proud of the way this looks or feels or the way it sounds or the way it comes across. So I would get insecure over things that come off as unexcellent, not organized, things that I'll give you a great example. So we had Leadership Lean In lunch. So
where was this at?
This is at our conference.
Okay.
With
In
Earl.
LA, yep.
With Earl. And I really trust our guys. I think we got really competent, capable people. Well, one of my guys, he's newer on staff. He just moved from Tulsa. And long story short, you and me and Earl and all these people came through a side door. And there was like a production set up on this side door. Well, when I walked in, the first thing I see right away is cords. It's like my biggest pet peeve is anything that's unorganized. So we go through and we do the lunch, and that's fine. And I'm walking out, and I just say to our guys, hey, just a heads up, like, see this whole thing right here? It just embarrasses me. And it hits a chord in me that makes me feel...
But what do you think that is? You think it's because it looks, you feel like it doesn't build trust with other people, that you look like you're sloppy, that you look like you're fake?
That you don't care, that you're sloppy, you don't have your stuff together. I just think excellence speaks. I just believe that. When I go to Disneyland, the excellence screams at me.
But you've never been backstage at Disneyland. You've never been under the tunnels.
You're right. Okay, but I guarantee they're organized. When I go to Augusta National,
yep,
that's the best event I've ever been to.
But what is it creating? It's creating trust inside of you.
Yeah, it's to me, excellence.
Is it creating? Yeah,
excellence brings peace, order. I was talking about today. Order precedes blessing. When there's order, and things are organized. It
I
builds
agree.
trust, peace. It brings unity. So I can't work in a chaotic environment.
I think I'm the same way. I think one of the things, this is just funny as we're talking about this because this might be some very insider, boring pastor language. But like for me, I remember one time I had this experience where we had just moved into the iTech auditorium. I say it that way. It sounds really cool. It's what we call our city location. It's a high school in Little Haiti here in Miami. It seats like 1,500 people. And we were in 6 services at a middle school in Wynwood, and now we are going to 3 services at the high school and 2, and it was just a big split for us. And I had one of my kind of fathers in the faith, kind of a guy coming to preach that service. And you know what it's like on the first Sunday, you're bumping into some kind of thing. The room's packed full of people and production stuff. It's all volunteers. We're all trying our best. And then there's this light that was like demon possessed, like, and it's just like the whole, it never stopped. It's like, and I'm coming unglued. Like, you talk about excellence. This is like the most, God can't bless chaos. I hope he did something that night. Cause this was like, I have exorcised the demons. This house is clear. That's an Ace Ventura quote. But remember that? Like, this thing won't stop. It's like, it won't, the whole thing. And this pastor who's much older looks at me and goes, that light's really bugging you, isn't it? I said, yes, sir. And I'm trying to hold a smile. You know, it's like fake joy.
Right.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
He goes, you know what? I go, what? He goes, I don't care at all. I said, you don't? He goes, no, it's not my church.
That's so good. It's so true.
And when I heard it, I was like, but you would be freaking out if it was your church.
Yep, that's right.
I think I bring that story up to kind of, I don't know, differentiate, and maybe there's more to conversation here on one part, which is like, is my motivation to impress him? Or is my motivation to truly be excellent? On one hand, I think I was really, really frustrated that day. Maybe if I'm being honest with myself, more to impress him than it was to be excellent. Because if I could use logic, I'm going, we just did this with a bunch of volunteers. They loaded in here this morning, and there's a light that's malfunctioning. It has nothing to do with our spirit.
Right.
It has everything to do with technology that won't cooperate. But maybe I'm really, really ashamed and afraid and acting on the inside, crazy because I want him to think more of me than what I think about myself in the moment.
Yeah, and I think only
does that make sense? I don't know.
It makes total sense, but only you know that.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. What I'm saying is like you got to wrestle through your motives, your agendas, your ego, all that stuff. Once all of that is under arrest, you're working now to make yourself proud. We work hard. Why? To me, it's the same thing as self-respect. Why would I ever ask you to respect me if I don't respect me?
Yeah, good.
Or why would I think about trust. Why would I expect you to trust me if I don't even trust myself? So the whole thing about making others proud, I want people to be proud of me. But first, I must be proud of myself. I'm working hard. I'm doing my best. I'm trying to be a great operator. I'm trying to get things organized. I cannot control outcomes. All I can control is my attitude and my input. The attitude in which I work and how hard I work. That's all I got.
It's very good. I think this whole idea around like motivation, I think maturity is the difference between self-awareness versus self-absorption.
Ooh.
When I'm self-absorbed, it's all about me. How did I come off? How did I look? Trying to think how you're thinking about me. That's a big waste of time, But self-awareness is going, hey, let me be honest with my strengths. Let me be honest with my weakness. And now how can I take all of that and still be helpful to the moment beyond myself?
Right.
And I think there's a whole world right now like that doesn't get that. It's like you're not self-aware, you're self-absorbed.
Ooh.
And I'm not saying that as like some like a heater. Like I can be self-absorbed. I can put me at the center of the story too often.
Yeah.
And I think that's the fine line between having a spirit of excellence versus having a spirit of I'm trying to be impressive. You don't have a spirit of excellence. You're trying to be impressive.
Yeah.
And you're actually really discouraged, disappointed, discontent. Ooh, look at all those D's. Depressed.
Defeated.
Keep going. But it's actually not because of self-awareness.
Yeah.
It's more because you're self-absorbed.
That's
and
right.
I think that is the big fine line of like actually growing and becoming and getting better. I think at times it's going, hey, that light, maybe I was a bit self-absorbed. I also want to make a good experience for all these people that are here. I actually want our team to get this down. I don't want us all to be distracted. I want us to hear the message. I don't want us to be distracted with the light. Cool. Let's get it better next time. Let me also release and not live in anxiety over this.
And I think what you're hitting on really is the word humility. What is the definition of humility? It's not thinking less of myself it's thinking less about myself.
Very good.
That is the power of humility. And I think to be great, you can't have a ton of pride and be great. You just can't, because you'll never be about adding value and serving others. You will have a loyalty to yourself. And it's a self-absorption. That's what you're saying. You're just so consumed and you're not just aware, you're like driven by the opinions of others. I think there's a real freedom in humility that says, I'm worrying about others, but not what they think about me.
Yeah.
How can I serve them, help them, bless them, encourage them?
One of the things that you've been super passionate about, still are passionate about, is this lane of leadership. I think a lot of things, I think your lens constantly is thinking through that lens of leadership. It's funny, I was at dinner with a gentleman friend of ours, Ken Costa.
Yeah.
You know Ken, English banker, part of Holy Trinity, Brompton for years, Anglican, charismatic Anglican.
Yeah.
Wrote a great book.
Legend.
On the board of Alpha for years. And we went to dinner. He was in Miami a couple weeks ago, left the 6 p.m. service, went over to dinner in Coconut Grove. And we were talking about it. And he said, Rich, leadership to Gen Z is a bad word. I don't know how you guys get around teaching on leadership. I said, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And he said, a better word is the word influencer. And I actually, I don't know what rock I'm living under. Ken, by the way, is 70. My man's counseling me on the culture. I'm like, Ken, how do you know?
All
Bro,
of this
Ken,
is so good, by the way.
Ken lives in...
What's a better word is influencer.
Well, I'm
if you could just see his outfit, glasses, and hair as he says it, it's brilliant.
It's amazing. I'm like, oh, really? I didn't know we can't talk leadership.
Shout out to Ken Costa, by the way.
I love him. Have you...
And we just got to hang with his son.
Yes.
The great King Charles.
King Charles in L.A. When I say that, is that news to you what I'm saying? Are you going, oh, I know what you mean? Or I'm going, you're giving you a lot of your time to a leadership lean-in and to raising up another generation of people, guys like Maxwell, Chris, all these names, these people that have influence in the teaching of leadership. You're like, hey, let me keep teaching leadership, which I'm all about. Does vernacular, vocabulary, language matter?
Of course.
Does that make sense what he's saying? Or I had never heard that. I'm like, hey, we're influencers. Anything land there or no?
Yeah, I think, of course, John Maxwell says his definition of leadership.
There he goes again.
His definition.
Hey, there he goes again.
You knew what I was going to do.
We're going to play the quote game in a second.
John Maxwell's leadership definition
is what?
Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So, of course. When we talk about language and Gen Z language, I'm not going to adjust all my language to. Have you seen the SNL of the Gen Zs talking at the hospital?
Tell me about it.
Unbelievable.
I haven't watched SNL, by the way, in 10 years.
I just see clips on TikTok and it's phenomenal.
Okay, so you were watching TikTok.
Yeah, I was watching TikTok and
you didn't
on
watch
the algorithm.
You didn't stay up till 11:30. It's Saturday night.
No, I'm asleep.
Live.
Yeah, live from New York.
Yeah,
it's Larry David, or something. Yeah, which is
your host, Chad.
But
Veach.
I see all their bits through that, and
Sure.
I think, by the way, SNL is so in tune with culture. But they did a bit,
except they're on NBC, and it's like cable. I don't have cable, bro. But we'll see on TikTok.
Lauren Michaels,
so relevant.
But they did a bit last year, not even this year. It was last year.
Who was Adam Sandler, Chris Farley, and David Spade.
No, it's Horatio,
Chevy Chase,
Horatio Sands, Jimmy Fallon, and think about how long that show
Jimmy
has
Fallon
lasted.
used to always do bits, and he would just start laughing in the bits, and people just liked him. I was like, you're not even doing the character.
Always. Think about
That's
him.
some stuff I would just start laughing.
Think about him in the if Bruce Dickinson wants to sell gold records, that one,
bro,
Christopher Walken.
You're lying. You watch SNL this is part of your Sunday routine. Live from New York.
I start doing it on Sundays.
Yes.
No, but they did this thing on Gen Z last year, and it was basically all the buzzwords they use and the way they talk and how absurd it sounds to us. All their language. And I watched it and laughed with the rest of, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people watch that now. Millions, I don't know.
Tens of thousands.
Yeah. But it was to me, it's that's so funny. Their language is so different than ours. To answer your question, am I going to change my language because that group sees leadership as a bad word? I don't think they see it as a bad word per se. But I think it's always important. What is our goal? Today, what an honor to preach at your church all day. I'm just trying my best for 40 minutes in every service to connect. So any language I can use, Spanish, I tell my boys, I speak 4 languages, boys.
Let's hear it.
They go, what? I speak 4 languages. Dad, what? I speak English, Spanish, Ebonics, and tongues.
Ebonics.
I go, Ebonics, what's that? Don't worry about it. But
Bro, you were dropping some Spanish, Dad. Do you actually know those Spanish words?
oh, I knew every word I dropped.
You did.
By the way, the next time I come,
Yes.
whenever that is, I'm going to do a service in Spanish.
For real?
5 minutes.
You think you could preach a message in Spanish?
7-minute service. I
7
can
minutes.
do a 5-minute. What'd you do the other day for Super Bowl? 7 minutes?
Everyone, we get 45 preachers, 7 minutes apiece.
I'm
in
doing
9 different services.
7 minutes. I'm coming next Super Bowl Sunday.
Bro, that would be awesome. Could you do 7 minutes? You
Have
like
I-
Psalm 23.
One time I was at the president of Foursquare for Mexico at his church.
Come on.
And I was on his mission trip.
Was Amy Simple there?
Not yet.
Okay.
And so
Good,
he says,
fast.
this service, I've heard your Spanish. This service you're preaching in Spanish. I said, sir. He goes, no, you're good enough. I go, sir. This is, by the way, 13 years ago, maybe 14.
He goes, you're good enough.
Yeah, you're
Sir.
good enough.
keep
Sir,
going.
this is not going to go well. So the man made me preach in Spanish. Ustedes, ¿cómo estás? Brother, I promise you that was a 4-minute message. And I wrapped it up in prayers. Gracias. Adios. What am I going to do? I've got like, Jesus is el paz de todo el mundo.
What does that mean?
Jesus is the,
Reason for the season.
he's the peace. Paz is peace.
Oh, I love that.
You know, he's el rey.
Did you ever say fuego?
Oh, of course, fuego. You've got to
Espiritu
say fuego.
Santos.
Espiritu Santo is one of my favorite things to say in the whole
My
world.
favorite. I said now.
Espiritu Santo is the best.
Fuego.
Vámonos is a great one.
What is that?
Let's go.
I love that.
Right? It's a good one.
I do.
But I like to say,
What's bomb? How do you say that?
vámonos.
What was the word I used to love as a bomb? Boomer. No, wait. I can't think
Bro,
of it.
I love to say.
Bombay. No, wait. No, not Bombay. What's that word? No, not cowabunga. What is I'm trying to say? Trying to say something.
I
is
like
that?
to say,
Eu te amo. That's Portuguese. Dang.
That's
I gotta learn
Portuguese. You
some
knew it.
languages, bro.
I'm 4. Well, you got to catch up.
Give me some Ebonics. How do you preach Ebonics?
I can't do that.
Okay.
Right now. Ebonics is probably an old term, by the way. Probably an old
Definitely. I don't think. By the way, you put some of this stuff in a Chat GPT, and it's like, sorry, sir.
You
the
do-
word Ebonics you cannot use anymore. Urban Dictionary would now declare that as a word that's absolutely labeled.
Right, exactly,
Oh, sorry.
exactly.
Yeah.
By the way, how about today when I said
I thought the word
híjole?
sen. You know the word senile. You can't say that anymore.
You just told us this story.
Yeah, because I was. Never mind. I won't go there.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. But you learn.
Is there any other presidents that have ever been?
I guess I
senile?
can't say
Yeah, I'm trying to
leadership
figure
now.
out.
So I've got influencer leaning.
I think it's a really, really interesting. Now we pivot back to total
But
serious.
influencer is such a weird word to me. I would never use that word.
I know, but for the sake
For
of
our
the-
generation,
for the
that's
sake-
like the connotation of influencer.
But if you had the truth, that if you knew that there was a connotation attached, like for instance, I'm trying to think of like, I wish I would have thought through this a little bit more. I'm thinking through it right now in the moment with you. But like, there's words that are triggering words. Like I was joking the other day with this pastor. We had all these pastors come into Miami. It's like 500 pastors, and I was joking, but I was serious. Which is like, I think the word conference in
You've
the
been
little
saying this.
subculture.
Yes.
Once again, this is not like some millions of people watching this. This is a lot of pastors and leaders watching this. It's weird how the word conference already creates a connotation. I know what I'm getting. I know what that is. And that's triggering for me based upon those that have fallen before me, the
Yeah.
things that, these things have.
So is the word pastor, by the way.
So the word could have an intention, but it's got a different impact.
yeah.
And I think as a real leader, leadership is communication.
Yeah.
If I knew a word was landing wrong,
Yeah.
then I wouldn't use it. I'm not
Yeah.
married to any words. I
Right.
was just wondering, he was saying this stuff, I was like, it was more like, oh, I didn't know you couldn't say it.
Right.
And it kind of goes back to that idea of actual real influence or real leadership, which is I actually think that people are attracted to authenticity.
Yes.
I think people are attracted to boldness. I think that people are attracted to clarity. I think that people are
Yes.
attracted to passion.
Yes.
It's like we could go to the Heat game and I could either sit down, pull out a television set, and have a touch screen and go, slide 1. Chad, this is the history of the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat began in the early days of in the 1970s. There was a player there named Harold Miner. They called him Baby Jordan. I can start giving you the history
Yeah.
of it and be like, do you want to be a fan? It's like some people maybe learn that way. It's like, wow, logically, was born and raised here in Miami, and after your 3-point conversation, I want to be a Miami Heat fan. Or I could just take you to a Heat game, paint my chest red, and go, "Wah!" And you're like, you start cheering too.
Yeah, ain't that where the Heat play?
Yeah, there we go.
Exactly.
By the way, when you do that stuff, it dates you so much. You're not touching Gen Z with these bars, bro. Like, that stuff is
Okay,
that
but
stuff
hold on,
is
let me
so
but-
old.
but let me ask
the point of my conversation being there real quick is that I think that in one case, if I knew a word didn't land, then I wouldn't use it. However, there's another whole argument to that being, if leadership is the thing that makes you tick and that's real, then you're going to gravitate towards teaching that, which is like going to the Heat game to me, going crazy, being bold, and people are like, I'm about that guy.
Yes.
You didn't give me any words.
Right.
You were just loud, and I liked your passion.
Right.
Does it make sense, or am I losing you?
It makes total sense, but I want to go back to the rap lyrics.
If you're going to go back to watch The Throne,
But do you think that it comes a time where
Yes.
we can't use these lyrics?
I just think it dates you. How old are you?
I'm 44.
It's like kind of being cool to other 44-year-olds, and
This
like
is
I'm
40.
done impressing 44-year-olds. You know, no.
I think it's so hard for me. Julia
Ain't
gets
that where the Heat play?
Julia gets really upset. And she's like, "Do you think you could make it through a message without quoting 90s rap songs?"
Well, brother, today you said something. You said something about enemies, and I heard Julia was sitting next to me in church. She goes, "Don't do it," and you're like, I got enemies, got a lot of enemies. I'm like, man, if this isn't a picture of marriage, I don't know what is. She knew.
She knew I was going to live.
And I watched you preach 4 times that. You never said it except for that one service.
when she's there.
But you're like, you said something about enemies. You're like,
And maybe it's I can feel her presence.
and you were doing it to spite her?
Yeah, a little bit probably.
Maybe it's
to
the
go
rebel
like,
in you.
hey, really? You don't like this?
That's the rebel in you.
You don't like this? Guess
Why
what?
do you think leadership matters? Why are you still teaching that?
Oh, come on.
But I'm saying, like,
the greatest felt need in the world is leadership. It's the greatest felt need in any home.
you believe this?
In any house, in any church, in any nation. The greatest felt need in any relationship.
Do you really think everyone is a leader? Because I teach that. We said, do you believe that to be true?
every person has influence? I
Every
saw,
person has influence. I like that. That's where these words kind of separate. It's like every person's got influence.
So if leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Again, going back to that quote. I saw a stat recently. I was revisited by this stat. The average person will, in their lifetime, greatly influence at the minimum of 80 people. It's a lot of people. I just got to admit right now, if we had 80 people up in here, this place would be jammed.
Yeah.
80. You're going to influence that many? That's without trying. That's living. That's without setting intention. Now, if you set intention, I love my city or sign up as a servant leader, whatever, that just starts to grow and develop. So I think at the end of the day, what are we trying to do? We are, you and I, trying to influence people, not just to be good leaders. I want to make sure I'm always clear with my role in life, my mission in life. I'm not trying to raise up leaders as much as I'm trying to raise up Jesus followers. Yeah, going back to the greater culture shift for me is leadership lean in is because there was a reaction to the word discipleship. And people had a reaction to discipleship. And so what went away? That word, and replaced it with leadership. But what is leadership development? Discipleship. Because education is discipleship. And so as you educate people, you're discipling them. So I think maybe, who knows, I'm probably going to be wrong in 4 or 5 years. Maybe in 5 years, the word will be influence or influencer. I don't know. But I think at the end of the day, it matters so much to me because I think almost all problems could be solved if we assumed and accepted our leadership responsibility and stepped into them in every sphere of our life. This matters most to me. So I think, on our podcast, I say it a lot. I can't promise perfection, but as always, progress.
Very good.
I'm trying to get a little bit better. I'm not at all where I need to be. I've got so much dang growth and so much stuff to learn. I'm not even close to where I need to be, where I want to be. But you said this morning, I'm not the man I was 3 months ago.
Good. Very good.
I'm not who I was in January 1, to be honest. I've been listening to podcasts, reading books, having transparent conversations, reading my Bible every day, worshiping God, leaning into the stuff I got to work through as a man.
Confessing, repenting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm better.
I wonder at times if like a big like disconnect with people, or maybe division with people, is just miscommunication. Like many of us have the same intention, but we've got maybe different words that we're using to get there.
Different ways to get there.
And I think in the body of Christ, Christianity, there's so much like bickering and complaining and criticizing.
Man.
And I think as I kind of like talk with people, so many people more often than not are very clear about the primary thing, which is Jesus is the way to heaven. Jesus is the way to God. I am a sinner. I must repent. What is repentance? It's the changing of your mind.
Right.
It's the recognition. I'm not just sad. I'm also going, I'm in need of help, So like it's a turnaround. It's a change. But I wonder at times if like vernacular and word, that's why I think words are really important though.
Oh.
Because it's like, what was that? Like I heard like an old story one time, like a guy, rolls through a stop sign and the cop pulls him over. And as the cop pulls him over, he pulls him out of the car and he starts hitting him with the billy club. And the guy's like, please stop, please stop, please stop. Or no, I'm sorry, I messed it up. Pulls him over and the guy's like, the guy goes to the cop. He's like, why'd you pull me over? He's like, you didn't stop. He's like, officer, I slowed down. There it is. I slowed down. Officer pulls him out. Got to be careful with the officer stuff. But like starts hitting with the billy club, The guy's like, stop, stop, stop. And then the officer goes, do you want me to stop? Or do you want me to slow down? Which is actually kind of a nasty bar just of like the weight of words do matter.
Oh,
like, I'm not
my
acting like words
gosh.
don't matter. I just wonder at times, and I think the gospel, it's not like my good intentions don't get me to heaven. It's knowing Jesus that gets me to heaven. So that's pretty specific. I'm the way, the truth, and life. No one gets to the Father but through me. But I do think some of this stuff, there's vernacular that gets like picked up that becomes triggering or charged.
Yes.
That maybe becomes secondary. I totally believe in leadership. I put out a leadership email every Tuesday.
Leadership with the Rich.
I was just sitting there with
Subscribe.
a man who's in the world as an investment banker. He's like, I can't believe you're teaching leadership. It's got to be influence. And I'm not saying that he's wrong or I'm right. I'm just going, I was just listening to that going, that's a very intriguing thing to me.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things I work with my boys constantly, this is my constant conversation with my boys. Hey, come here. Hey, I love what you're saying right there. That was really good. I think your language is really good. Hey, bud, so how you just said that sounded it sounded like evil. So let's work on, say it again, but say it like in a way that would sound endearing. Same words, just a different tone.
Very good.
And I think tone is everything. So when you match good vocabulary with the right tone that's warm and uplifting and encouraging, that to me becomes the power punch, that power combo of going like really good words said in the right spirit lands for people. You use the word being authentic. I think people feel that. People sense. When I listen to the best of the best leaders, Ed Milet, my goodness, John Maxwell, Patrick Lencioni, we could keep going, right? All these amazing leaders. It's not only the content that they are delivering. It is the person I am sensing and feeling of going like, wow, they care about other people being empowered, other people learning, other people growing. And I think people, what's the saying? People don't care how much you know
Till they know what you care.
Right? So you got it. Even as a communicator today, before I got up, what I was thinking and praying? Lord, help me to brag about you so well. Lord, help me to tell everybody how much you love them. That every person will really feel how good you are. If I go up there and go, God, help me to do well. Lord, I just really want to be funny today. Oh, God, let me be anointed and powerful. People will feel that.
You're thinking about yourself.
You think about yourself.
Not thinking about them.
What is the thing about a communicator that makes them so powerful? They care about their audience. They're there to serve their audience. They're trying to get the message to them.
Very good.
I think that takes away the nerves as well. You say, you nervous? Well, let me ask you. I've only had to perform a couple times. Every time I perform, I'm very nervous. But every time I'm bragging about somebody else, I'm not that nervous.
It's really good.
You know what I'm saying?
No, it's really, really good. We're talking a little bit about influence and leadership, and there's a big weight that comes with influence and leading. And we could sit here and give lots of point kind of driven sermons. Leadership's responsibility. I think that's the whole story not the whole story, but a big part of the story of the Garden of Eden, if you're watching right now, like their failure to take responsibility. Adam blames Eve. Eve blames the serpent. And
Adam and Eve, like those guys.
And the serpent slithers away, which is so funny. The serpent, he's gone, but it's the blame game. And I think a lot of leadership is trying to own my own mess, own my own sin,
That's it.
own my own humanity. I think vulnerability is what connects us. That's what when I use the word authentic, it's not like it's funny, it's connotation, because I'm even as I'm hearing them, like, I don't mean live your own truth.
No.
I think authentic means I know God's truth and it doesn't feel like my truth today. I'm going to give you my truth and how I see it conflict with God's truth, and I'm trying to reconcile and submit to his truth. And that is responsibility. That is a lot of work. That's hard. That's heavy. I think a lot of us on the journey of maturing, the journey of growing, it's like we quit. Like you talked about today about quiet quitting. Like, I'm out, bro. This was harder than I thought. And I think, like, I'm not trying to be that old guy, but the older I get, the more conservative I become. It's like we are getting softer. Like, America's not as resilient as we once were. Influence, responsibility, leadership comes with a weight of pressure. I want to talk a little bit about it with you, just because I feel like you've had that pressure on you, but somehow you always have like this like joy about you. I don't know. I know you, so I know the real pain that you've gone through, whether it's your daughter who was born with a disorder, whether it's through planting a church in LA and 17 months of not having the doors open, whether it's being criticized online, misunderstood. What are some of those keys? Because I think maturity is about resiliency and taking responsibility of those moments. Anything that you can speak about there of how you're able to get yourself up, the tensions between all that, projecting the security versus actually having it?
Yeah, I think, it's just not fun to have lulls or bad seasons, or when, I don't know if you get this way, when I'm not who people expect me to be, I find myself hiding in my house. Like it's so funny. Julia's talking about how passion happens like on January 2nd or 3rd usually, or sometimes even over New Year's. And the last couple of years, she hasn't gone with me. And
Passion conference.
A passion conference. And she was saying,
I think like people get passion on January 2nd. I was like, is that a study? I don't know about this. Did Ken Costa say that too?
Sorry, passion conference.
Every January 2nd, people have a high level of passion. Like, that is true.
Passion conference in context. And she's saying, I'm just not ready to be in public yet. What she's saying is, from Christmas Day to New Year's Day, we're hunkered down in hibernation mode.
Yep.
This year we went to the mountains. We could be at the house, but we just been chilling.
Yep.
And we're not ready. I find myself when I'm under criticism or loss or pain, or not feeling like I'm strong enough to be in public, I can seclude, because I got to get my bearings right. I got to get my perspective. So sometimes what triggers that, right? That strength. Sometimes I've got to just remind myself, it's not as bad as I think it is. What are those sayings that it brings so much strength? There's more people that are for you than against you. You're doing better than you think you are.
Very good.
So I got to wrestle through all that. I got to figure out, like, is it as bad? Am I as bad? Did I make a mistake that's so bad? And I got to reconcile that. Sometimes it's journaling. Sometimes it's just listening to worship music. I have a daily Bible reading that really kind of keeps me going.
Yep.
But I find, and this is so truthful. You've been this for me 1,000 times. The thing that the enemy uses and the thing that God uses is the exact same tool.
Ooh.
And that is people.
Wow.
And every time God has elevated my life, it's been through a relationship. And every time God's brought me out of a rut, it's been through a relationship. Every time I've been hurt and in the dumps, it's been through a relationship. And every time I've had to go backwards, usually, it's because of a relationship. So I've got to be very careful to still be trusting, still be loving.
Yeah.
I got to get strong and healed.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I don't know if I told you this thought. This is so good. I love Henry Cloud so much. His latest book is on trust, and he writes about in his new book, we were created by God to trust from the womb. We trust for sustenance right away. We want to be held right away. So our arms up. We are wired by God to trust people. So I know that I'm not in a really good place when I'm not trusting. I've got to get strong enough. And so sometimes, you go through loss, you go through pain, you go through setbacks. I was trying to say this earlier. I'm okay, like insecurity. I'm okay with being disappointed. I cannot let a disappointment turn into defeat.
Very good.
There's a difference.
Yeah, very different.
When I'm disappointed, it's like, but at the end, I was saying to you at our conference, Thursday night, I was so disappointed. But I got up Friday morning and said, let's go. I can't stay there.
The bad part of that story that he's not telling you is that I preached on Thursday night, and he said it was a very disappointing night. I was like, because of my message? He's like, no, everything else. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm still associated with that awful night.
No, I just, for many dynamics. But
so one of the things you're saying is powerful, I think, as leaders, is that we do get disappointed and we do get hurt. And leading has to do with people. And if there's nobody following you, then you're not leading anybody. And so people can hurt us on the journey. And when something gets hurt in real life, if you break a bone, you put a cast on it.
Yeah.
The cast for a season is a hard shell.
Yeah, right.
That protects that bone. Nothing gets to that bone. That
Right.
bone gets set. But at some point, the cast comes off. I wonder today how many people are healed but never took the cast off.
Ooh, that's
I
strong.
wonder how many leaders, they don't recognize that their heart is actually made whole again.
Yeah.
But they leave a cast on that prevents them from ever seeing the new blessing, the new miracle that is a person. God's greatest blessings in my life, God's greatest delivery mechanism of miracles in my life has always been through people. I think when people disappoint us or let us down, or when we feel like we didn't measure up to someone's expectations, or someone says something about us, we can get jaded and put that cast on, but that cast never comes off.
That's right.
And it puts us in a really, really interesting place. You've been in ministry for over 20 years. What's the closest you ever come to quitting in 20 years that you can think of?
I think last year is the closest.
Last year, what happened last year?
Is the first time I even thought about it. I think,
Not 2020.
No, 2020 was still fine. 2021 was still fine.
What happened in 2023 that made you
I
almost want
think
to quit?
that the culmination of everything that happened in Los Angeles, in the church, and all that finally arrived in 2023.
What'd you feel like?
I think I felt like I was so accustomed to just winning, flowing, going, good, momentum. It's the first time that I kind of felt like I'm doing all the same stuff. It's not really working the way that I would anticipate, the way that it has in the past. So either I have to reinvent myself or I have to let a season go by. I had never faced something like that before. But I was really excited at the end of the day once I worked through my own disappointment of it, of going like, hey, it's not always going to be this way.
Yeah.
There are factors outside of your control that are at play here. And if you messed up, you got to take ownership. You got to get better. You got to mature me. You got to, own your stuff. But then you also have to have big perspective and understand what's happening on a larger scale to a greater body. I think it's always encouraging to get around other people in your industry to find out, how's it going for you? What's going on in your world? What are you experiencing in leadership? Last night, the four of us went to dinner and we talked about, things. How's it going for you? What are you experiencing? How can I learn? I think all that's important. Going back to what we were just saying, because I think it's really important that we understand, how do I know that the cast is off? Like, because sometimes you can say it, but you're still not.
Sure.
So I always think, I can tell when someone's strong if they're quick to laugh. It's like, wow, that says a lot. Someone's slow to laugh. I can tell if someone is healed by the way they worship. You watch people that don't worship, something's off. There's a hurt there. There's a brokenness. You see someone that's able to give praises to God that speaks about a connection, right? Another way that tells me personally that I'm strong is if I'm quick to invite, quick to let people in my house, quick to platform. Not, of course, lay hands on no man suddenly, but I'm not going like, don't give them a go.
I think I would narrow all that word down to the word trust.
Yeah, there you go.
I laugh at people I trust with.
Yes.
Or I'm faking it. I worship the God that I trust in. You worship the
go.
level that you believe you've been forgiven.
There you go.
Those who've been forgiven little,
Yeah.
love little.
Love little.
Those who've been forgiven much, love much.
That's right.
I invite people into my home when I feel safe.
Yeah, because I'm
I
trusting.
don't, to my knowledge, if I know you're a bandit, I don't invite you to my house.
That's it.
If I know you're an abuser,
Yeah.
if you're like a,
Yeah.
if you're a kid, you think I invite kidnappers to my house?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I have some level of trust or belief in you. And I think that you're nailing that. You've gone through some interesting things throughout the years. One moment that I can't all the way get past of that I don't know if you've talked about much is like this whole situation, this phenomenon in our little tiny cul-de-sac of influence and leadership was this thing called preachers and sneakers. You were talking earlier about like maybe a moment of like where you're kind of being squeezed or triggered. I think if I kind of know the story from your vantage point, a lot of that whole thing happened based upon you commenting back or writing back.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that whole story?
What's crazy is I was sharing. Me and Julia were telling you part of this story. I left all this part out, but we were telling you the story about my brother-in-law is in Palm Springs, sitting by the pool, preparing to preach his first Sunday message ever. This guy was a stud, and he goes inside to get a drink. Asks my other brother-in-law, "Do you want something to drink?" Goes inside, has a brain aneurysm.
How old is he?
He's 30, let's say 2, maybe.
Young guy.
Has a brain aneurysm. Ambulance is there within 3 minutes. This is in Palm Springs. We get a phone call. This happened. Julie and I jump in a car in LA. It's a 2.5-hour drive. We fly over there. We drive over there as fast as we could. We walk in the hospital. My sister-in-law, Julia's sister's in her bathing suit. And my brother-in-law's on a hospital bed, basically dead. He's already died, pretty much. She's weeping. We're weeping. We can't believe this is. It just happened so suddenly. I'm weeping over him, praying over a miracle. I just can't believe this guy is such a stud. I walk out of the room. We're sitting in the waiting room, and I'm just dumbstruck. And to pass the time, probably shouldn't have. I get on Instagram and I see something. About your clothes and da-da-da. So I just wrote something back very, sarcastic. Hey, I'm going to paraphrase. It was a little different, but I think that I said, "Hey, thanks for noticing," or something. All these clothes were given to me. My friend George, who owns Rude, gave me the pants, if I remember the photo right. Jerry Lorenzo, our dear friend, you did his wedding. Shout out to Jerry Lorenzo. Had given me like the shirt. Jeffrey Rockman had bought me a backpack. Like everything I was wearing was gifted. So I was just like, "Hey, thanks for noticing." I didn't buy any of this stuff, And then.
But you were defensive.
Very defensive. Very
kind of cringy in the defense, like
idiotic. It's Proverbs. By the way, this is all in Proverbs. Don't you dare address a fool, because you're gonna look like the fool. So I was violating the book of Proverbs.
Someone who doesn't know you, doesn't know the story,
criticizing
you from a picture.
Why would I defend myself?
But you're in a low moment and
I'm
you
in a
respond.
low, vulnerable moment. So stupid of me, and it cost me. In addition to that,
how did it cost you?
Well, in addition to that, my buddy Chase that works for Instagram, I had been asking him, I think that I had to be Chad Veach for a while or something like that. And I was asking him, if I remember, and I did that because Brian C. Houston. It's so stupid. I remember this stuff. So good. So
I just love Chad. What's the C for in Chad C. Veach?
Charles. That's my middle name.
Chad Charles?
Yeah, I'm a Chad
I thought
Charles.
Chad was short for Charles.
No, I'm Chad Charles, man. Yeah, Winston Charles.
That's
Dave
like being
Charles.
Rich Richard. That's like being Rich Dick Wilkerson. Hi, I'm Rich Richie Wilkerson. Your parents named you the same name twice? I'm Chad Charles. What? I'm sorry. Bro, you should open every message with going, "Hey, my name's Chad Charles."
How about when we were in the mountains, I kept telling my kids, what do you have a nickname for Wyatt? What's Wyatt's nickname? Do you have a nickname for him?
Wyatt the Brave? I don't know.
Wyatt the Brave or something. And I was like, this is Capable Clive. And I go, "Boys, my nickname?" And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "I'm Chocolate Chad."
Yeah. I said Willing Wyatt. We were doing an alliteration game.
Anyways,
Back to Chad Charles. Sorry. We were very serious, and it got. I'm sorry, you go.
That same
Chad
afternoon,
C. Yeah.
the same afternoon, my friend Chase from Instagram was like, "Hey, I changed your name on Instagram. You're good." So basically, what had happened was, I calmed down, delete the comment. I'm like, I shouldn't do that.
I shouldn't have said that.
That's so stupid. Why would
I was being defensive?
Why would I ever engage that? It's so dumb.
And people don't care that.
People don't. Nobody cares. And anytime you have to explain all that stuff, you're
Then
already
it-
at a loss. You're an
yeah.
idiot. I'm being an idiot. So anyways, was what got screenshot, or that's what kind of made it even go further. This guy deleted his comment and changed his name over it, which I didn't change my name over.
Oh, I see.
That made it go
everyone thought
further.
that you were really
Made it go
bothered by this, and so it went going.
Made it go
And then did that thing hurt you? Like people were just hating on you on social for a while?
Yeah, I feel like. Did you feel like you got hit worse or me?
I thought for a couple of weeks there, I was kind of perplexed, like it was a whole thing for sure. God bless them. I mean, I think the intention, I think as I mature, it's like, I think all that stuff's really good. I think when I look at it, it's pretty cringy to see what everyone's wearing.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like, it's a weird costume that everyone's got on. It's a weird avatar. It's a very weird, but I think it's also still very hurtful because I think a lot of people, just because one person does one thing or there's groups that follow certain things doesn't mean that you know the intention of everything else.
That's
and so
right.
It was confusing, I think, for me because I have a lot of friends. I'm not defending myself. You got a lot of friends that make stuff that's artists.
Yes.
And I don't know how to support my artist friend if I don't wear their certain things.
Yes.
But even so, I don't owe you a response about what shoes I buy.
How about the other day when you came and preached for us and they killed you for your outfit that Sunday night?
Yep.
What did that make you feel like?
I think as I get older, I'm getting better with that, but I think it hurts your feelings. And I think it makes you...
It's really weird.
I think that I'm bringing it up towards this leadership, which is you want to learn from criticism. My grandpa used to say, not everyone that criticizes you your enemy. Some of them are the ones that actually tell you the truth. I believe that firmly.
Oh, that's great.
But if you're not careful, you get obsessed with what people are saying that you're not or that you're against. And it can rob you of the joy that you need. It can rob you of the courage that you need. I think about Saul and David. And Saul was trying to please people. And in pleasing people, his entire anointing in his kingdom was robbed. So I don't want to be a person that is afraid to be...
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be controversial. I'm not even trying to... I think if I learn from something like that, I don't want to be a distraction with what I do.
There you go.
This is not the controversy I want to be around. Does that make sense? I don't
care.
I want to preach the gospel.
Yes.
I want to believe that I'll preach it to the point that you'll kill me for it.
I'm here to serve
I
people.
do not want to be lost in some controversial pop culture. Why are you spending this much money on shoes? I won't wear the shoes if it's going to be that much of a distraction. But I don't want to not wear the shoes because I'm afraid of you.
That's
I don't even know who you are.
That's right.
I think we're totally diverting a little bit, but for you, I more was thinking about it as you're telling me that story the other night, which is more about like a reaction towards a sad, hard moment that you probably in a moment of a lot of pressure and weight. The death of what are we talking about?
Yeah. Why would I be
the death of your brother-in-law, but like responding in a way that you probably wouldn't have responded that brought more attention to something.
And I think that there you go. There's a takeaway. When you're emotional, highly emotional, halt. What is that? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. When you're in those, you probably shouldn't be commenting. I've seen it cost a lot of people in their trauma, in their emotional state, popping off online. They're hurt. Cost me, will cost you. I think but you learn from these. And you've probably been canceled a number of times, or to a degree of all that. I've experienced it, in different pockets. And once you experience it once, you know how to go through it. You go, oh, okay. I've been here before. I know how to handle it. Don't respond. Don't say anything. Unless you have to say something, don't say anything. So
unless you've crossed a line.
That's what I'm saying. Unless you have to say something. Which if you cross the line, you have to say something.
Yeah, I think you have to,
But I'm saying I've experienced being canceled for accusations of stupid stuff. And had those go for 72 hours.
Have you seen the viral thing that went? I don't know. It was a couple weeks ago. This clip from Julia Roberts.
Really yeah. Crazy.
Did you see this?
With the picture with the girl?
Yeah, Julia Roberts puts this picture up. I think of her and her niece.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
And I just thought her voiceover was powerful. Like she was explaining, like, "Hey, I put this photo up. I really like the photo. Didn't think much about it." But then when I looked at the comments, just said I'm ugly. Said how old is she? What?
Yeah.
Is she? Doesn't even look like a person. Doesn't look.
Yeah.
This is what's she doing? And she said, I'm a 50-year-old woman.
Yeah.
And when I read these comments, she's like, I'm okay, but like, it hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
I can only imagine what that would feel like if I was a 14-year-old girl. That, my friend, is what scares me in the world that we live in.
Yes.
Which I'm glad we're doing a conversation. We're putting this online. As we put this online, people watching it, it's up for public scrutiny. It's just sad to me that we live in a time that we are so quick to criticize, so quick to tear people down, so quick to judge people's integrity. And that does concern me for my children. It does concern me for what we do. I want to raise strong boys and a strong girl, and I want to help them understand where their identity comes from. But I also recognize that not everyone's afforded mom and dad like that. Not everyone's afforded wherewithal or capacity like that. Right. And I'm not saying my capacity is so great. I'm just going, I want to keep fighting through it. And I don't want to live for I'm not trying to please man. I'm trying to please God. And I will stand before God one day, and I will be judged. And I'm aware of that.
100%.
Does that make sense? I'm aware of the words that I've said, the way I've lived my life. And that is enough that keeps me scared. I don't have time to be afraid of internet trolls or people.
But I do think that we have to be careful. In here's the other side of the coin. Okay, what's the saying? If I live by their praises, I will die by their criticism. Very good. You cannot be a leader that just goes, okay, criticism, I'm not going to listen to any of the comments, negative comments, haters, blah, blah, blah. But man, the people that love me, no, you got to kill both. And you think about Jesus, the greatest leader that ever walked the face of the earth. They would praise him, and he would literally say, fam, thank you. I'm good, bro. Trust. Appreciate you. Love you. I'm good. He refused to receive their praises. Why? He was already good. So he didn't drink it in. Because he knew those same people that were praising him right there, a week later, were going to crucify him. Be very careful. The lesson and the model that we can follow as an example is that people are fickle.
Very.
And one day they're singing your praises, and the next day they're in the house saying that you're the worst leader I've ever met. So you cannot give yourself to the opinions of others.
Very good.
I live to please and serve one man.
I think as I mature in the Lord, I used to, be very aware, that person's hating on me or criticizing me. That would kind of caution me. These days, when someone's overly flat, I'm with you forever, bro. I'm like, red flag.
Come on.
Dog, you don't know anything about forever. You don't know nothing about tomorrow. You with me today? Let's be here today. Let's go the journey. You're saying that whole thing about Jesus, and it just makes me think about the fact that Jesus, man, he would say stuff. A couple things about Jesus. Jesus was not afraid to be guilty by association.
Wow.
I don't think Jesus was out partying and becoming the world. But Jesus was definitely hanging out with sinners, many sinners who did not convert. Right. He healed hands that hurt people.
Yeah.
He healed mouths that cursed people.
Yep.
He healed feet that would walk away from him. He cured blinded eyes that would lust with those very eyes again. He opened deaf ears that would listen to negativity and gossip and not say anything. So that's just the fact. Jesus is the embodiment of love and truth, no doubt about it, but he is love. But Jesus did not play into clarifying. Here we go now, and I don't have time for it today. But people are like, don't be so nuanced. He was huge on nuance.
Huge. That's why he's such a good storyteller.
Most of his parables, unless we got to get the insider language that he told the disciples, I still wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
Those who have ears to hear, let them hear.
Yeah.
Like, how about eat my flesh and drink my blood, and everybody leaves? And Jesus is like, let them go. In fact, he says to his disciples.
Let him go.
He goes to his disciples. He's like, you going to leave me
Y'all
too?
want to go?
He's okay with them leaving?
Jeez.
There's no clarification. This is what I meant. This is the symbolism of that. He lets them think he's for cannibalism. That's how you would hear that and read that. Unless you hate your mother, hate your father. Thank you, Tim Keller, for letting me know that's about comparison. And this stuff is extreme.
Yeah.
And he was okay being in the confusion of not always bringing clarity. And I think sometimes the world we live in today, I want to make sure that I'm obedient to God. And I'm not likening preachers and sneakers to that. I'm likening, I don't want my motivation to be to please people. I actually want to learn if something is off on me. I want to correct, bro. I want to please God, and I want to serve the people around me to the best of my ability. I don't want to be a distraction. I'm not trying to be a distraction, but I want to do what the Lord told me to do
Right.
through a biblical lens. And I want to lead and I want to serve. And as I look at it, most leaders that follow Jesus in the Bible, they almost all got crucified. They almost all got killed for
That's it.
So how do I think I'm getting out of this thing? If my goal is to be liked and popular, dog.
One of my favorite things he says, he goes, "Hey guys, just a heads up. I want you to know something. They hate me. They're going to hate you." I go, "Thanks for at least the heads up." Because I think sometimes we get around leadership or church or whatever, our profession, our calling, and we think we're going to be loved by everyone. Because you go places, and in the airport, in the grocery store, or when we're walking around the neighborhood, people that go to church do love you. And that can be misleading, that there's just going to be a group that's like that. Jesus goes, "Hey guys, I want to make sure we're clear. The light of the world has come into the world, but men, because of their evil deeds, have chosen darkness." They don't want to be around light. Darkness loves darkness. Darkness wants to be in darkness. So when we try and shine, that isn't always going to invoke, wow, talk more, keep living more. Like we got to be okay with. There's going to be another side of the coin that's really upset with that.
Yep. It's very, very good. I love you. We're talking for a really long time here, and I appreciate it. I'll keep going with you all night. We should just do a 3-hour stream one night.
Bro, what's his name? Joe Budden does 3 hours.
Really?
85% listen rate. 85% is through of his podcast listen rate.
I never listened to none of that.
3 hours. I think Rogan sometimes goes 3 hours.
I listen to the Word of God. That's all I listen to.
I don't believe you.
I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for your leadership.
Love you.
You're not perfect, but I do think that you are progressing. I think you're getting better. And I think that we all get better by taking responsibility, owning it, recognizing that any level of leadership comes with a weight attached to it, comes with pressure attached to it. And you're in a really, really difficult city, in a difficult time, trying to spread the gospel. And I'm a celebrator of that. Doesn't mean I won't have private conversations with you and say, "Bro, that's a bit off." Same thing for me. But man, publicly, I'm for you. I'm behind you. I love you. Thank you for saying yes to Jesus. Thank you for following the way of the gospel. And I'm believing for Zoe LA. I'm believing for your family. Believing your best days are in front of you. And you and I are kind of those two guys that we're like, we think the church's best days are still in front of her.
Let's go.
And as long as I got breath, I'm going to believe for it.
Let's go.
And I'm going to keep fighting for it. And so I got your back. I'm for you. Thank you for coming on. Favorite guest ever on Mature Me. I just think you should come every week.
Let's go. I'm coming back next week.
We love you guys. Thanks for taking some time to tune in today. Leave us a comment. Anything that Chad said that you just totally disagree with, let us know right now in the comments. And I will get back to all of your emails. I promise you that. But we love you guys. Like, subscribe, share, and check us out right here next time on Mature Me.